Breaking news! Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell and general manager Brad Holmes have made their first major moves of the offseason, and they're already shaking things up in a way that fans should pay close attention to. There's a level of strategy and insight behind these free agent signings that speaks volumes about where this franchise is headed. And if you think these are just depth changes, think again. These are calculated decisions with immediate and long-term implications, especially with one player in particular who could change the way this roster is constructed heading into training camp. I'll tell you everything I've learned from reliable sources on the inside. But first, make sure you've hit the like button if you've been a Detroit Lions fan for over 20 years. It's great to see fans of all ages, so if you can, comment something like, "Go Lions! We're going to the Super Bowl this year." Now check out the updates that have fans and analysts talking online. Let's start with DJ Reader. Nothing too surprising here, but he's a solid acquisition. Reader is a proven defensive tackle, one of the best run blockers in the league when healthy, and it's clear that Dan Campbell is a big fan. The Lions will be counting on him to anchor the defensive line, especially given the situation with Allen McNeil. Now here's where things get interesting. McNeil is expected to miss nearly half the season due to the injury he suffered late last year. That opens the door for Roy Lopez, another key addition. He's no McNeil, sure, but he's got grit and power. Campbell pointed out that Lopez really came into his own when he faced off against Frank Ragnow, the Lions' All-Pro center, last season. That says a lot about his potential impact. He's not just a filler. He's someone who's earned the respect of the coaching staff through real battles on the field. But the most fascinating storyline here has to be Grant Stewart. If you're not familiar with him, get ready, because this guy is about to become a fan favorite in Detroit. Signed from the Indianapolis Colts, Stewart is a linebacker and special teams dynamo. But here's the kicker. The Lions are seriously looking at him to play fullback. That's right. This man could be going both ways on the field. That kind of versatility is rare in today's NFL. Dan Campbell lit up talking about him. He described Stewart as someone who's constantly been counted out, yet keeps finding ways to contribute at a high level. He's not just a body on the roster, he's a tone setter. Colts media even noted how shocked they were to see him leave for such a manageable deal, calling him the heart and soul of their special teams unit.
If you've watched this Lions regime closely, you know they love players who embody grit and resilience, and that's Stewart to a T. He's tough, high energy, and embraces the dirty work. Detroit is clearly building a culture, and Grant Stewart fits that mold perfectly. The idea of him stepping into the fullback role is not just exciting, it's symbolic of this coaching staff's creativity and adaptability. They're not just collecting players, they're finding football guys who can contribute in multiple ways, maximizing every roster spot. Switching gears to quarterback, there's a little bit of heat under the seat for Hendon Hooker. Brad Holmes didn't mince words. Hooker needs to get better, plain and simple. The competition is on for the backup job behind Jared Goff, and Kyle Allen is right there in the mix. Holmes did note that Hooker has had a pattern of slow starts throughout his career but usually comes on strong. That's the hope in Detroit, that he'll ramp up and prove he belongs. But it's clear the leash isn't long. This isn't a developmental year anymore. It's a prove-it year. On the defensive side, another name to keep an eye on is Avonte Maddox. The Lions see him as a veteran presence with versatility, someone who can contribute in multiple roles. The front office likes what he brings to the table, and while he may not be a headline grabber, he's another piece that can add stability and experience to a secondary that still needs to find its rhythm. And here's some news that just dropped. The Lions are hosting a visit with an edge rusher who posted a perfect RAS score. That's a raw athletic score of 10.0, which is almost unheard of. The RAS metric evaluates a player's athleticism based on metrics like the 40-yard dash, vertical and broad jumps, and agility drills. Most players fall somewhere in the 7 to 9 range. A perfect 10 means you're looking at an elite physical specimen. That kind of athleticism is rare, and bringing someone like that into the fold shows that the Lions are not content with just maintaining. They're looking to upgrade, especially in a draft class that's absolutely stacked with defensive talent. Speaking of the draft, the team's approach in a recent mock draft simulation was telling. With their picks, the Lions targeted the trenches hard: 2 offensive linemen, a defensive lineman, and a wide receiver. One of those O-linemen was Gray Zabel, a versatile player who could play both guard and tackle. That flexibility is huge. The other name that popped was Shemar Turner, a defensive lineman projected to be available in the second round. The coaching staff seems excited about the possibility of landing someone like him, and honestly, so should the fans. He fits the mold of what they're trying to build: athletic, tough, and versatile. This isn't just about plugging holes. It's about constructing a team that can impose its will, no matter the opponent. That's the theme we're seeing in every move. Guys who can play multiple roles, bring toughness, and help create depth across the board. The fact that the team walked away from the mock draft with a balanced haul, interior O-lineman, a wide out, and more defensive help, shows that Holmes and Campbell aren't locked into one strategy. They're playing the board, reacting to what's available, and putting faith in their scouting. So now it's your turn, Lions fans. What do you think about these moves? Do you like the idea of Grant Stewart playing fullback? Can Roy Lopez hold the line while Alan McNeil recovers? And is Hendon Hooker ready to take that next step? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's hear what you've got to say. And if you're still watching, here's where things start to get really juicy, because what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are doing isn't just about 2024. This is about building a team that can sustain success, and that starts with identifying the right kinds of players. Not just athletes, but personalities, leaders, football-first guys who can wear multiple hats on game day and in the locker room. That's why the Lions' decision to potentially use Grant Stewart as a fullback is so important. This isn't just about giving a linebacker a few reps on offense. This is about redefining positional value and roster efficiency. In today's NFL, where injuries are inevitable and every 53-man spot matters, having a guy who can be a core special teamer, backup linebacker, and also contribute on offense, that's rare. That's strategic. That's Detroit. Let's not forget how Dan Campbell himself played. He was an old-school tight end who did the dirty work. You don't think he values a guy like Stewart stepping up and taking on that fullback role with pride? You don't think the locker room notices when a guy is willing to do whatever it takes to win, even if it means taking snaps at a position that's nearly extinct in modern football? That's a culture move. That's a message to the team. We're going to do things our way, the gritty way, the unselfish way. And that message is starting to resonate across the league. Now, let's go back to that defensive line situation. The injury to Alan McNeil isn't ideal. Losing a guy like that for potentially half a season changes how you approach both free agency and the draft. But Brad Holmes moved quickly, grabbing Roy Lopez, a guy who's got a chip on his shoulder and a track record of standing up against top-tier talent. When Dan Campbell highlights a play where Lopez held his own against Frank Ragnow, that's not just a fun anecdote, that's a signal. He's telling you this guy belongs. He's telling you that Lopez has already earned the staff's respect through his tape, his effort, and his toughness. He's not just a placeholder until McNeil comes back. He's part of the plan. And here's something that might get overlooked but shouldn't: the way the front office is communicating with fans through these media appearances. Campbell and Holmes aren't giving you generic quotes. They're giving you insight. They're letting you peek behind the curtain. When Holmes says Hendon Hooker needs to step up, that's not a shot. That's a challenge. So here's the big question. Do you believe in this vision? Are you buying into the idea that guys like Grant Stewart, Roy Lopez, and DJ Reader can make a real difference in 2024? Do you think Hendon Hooker can rise to the occasion and push Kyle Allen for that backup QB spot? And how do you feel about targeting the trenches so heavily in the draft? Let us know in the comments, because this offseason might be quiet on the surface, but beneath it, the Detroit Lions are setting the foundation for something real, and it's time to get on board.